can I do this deterministically without AI?
What are his team going to be doing?
True. I mean, if I was a VC and I wasn't investing in AI, where would I be putting my money currently?
It's kind of a ridiculous scenario at the moment.
Hello and welcome to the Generation AI podcast, where, as usual, every week we come up with the latest news in AI, machine learning, data, and basically bridge the gap from the business side of the product all the way to the technical side. And we present nice use cases and thought-provoking questions for people building with AI or considering building with AI. We're at episode 10. We reached quite far. How do you feel about the last few episodes and the journey so far?
I'm always open to new ideas, and there's never a shortage of ideas in this space. So ready to get stuck in for today. What are we going to cover?
Usually we, historically, in our last 9 episodes, we covered big companies. We covered Sam Altman, OpenAI, Lovable. But we rarely covered smaller verticals and smaller use cases. So today, we're not going to talk about, as our first topic, about OpenAI, but we're going to talk about the spin-offs that were born from people that left OpenAI. Then we're going to go through for our second topic, through some highly specific AI verticals. Going to move on to how the best AI is the AI you don't notice as a consumer. Then we're going to talk about how AI is changing work and ask ourselves if it is for the better. And then we'll look at a company called Dex and their funding from A16Z and their business model.
We have so many topics today. Let's
we do. Let's be efficient.
Succinct.
Perfect. So first topic, not OpenAI, but OpenAI related. A few episodes ago, we covered how Mina Murati, the ex-CTO of OpenAI, I think she spent around 6 or 7 years with the company. She built ChatGPT and the architecture and infrastructure around it. So she has quite a good reputation, I must say. She left OpenAI last year, I think September, October, to build thinking machines. We're not going to go through what thinking machines does. Please refer our previous episode. We'll link in the show notes. The interesting thing is that not only she left to build thinking machines, which is a research lab, but another person, a key person from OpenAI, Ilya Sutskever, left OpenAI to build safe superintelligence, which is, again, a research lab type of company that is looking into making AI more intelligent. The interesting thing I noticed about both companies is that they have no product. They only have one landing page that looks like a Google Docs document, pretty much some text on their main page, that's it, with some promises and with crazy high investment rounds and valuations. For example, Safe Superintelligence raised a $2 billion, I think, seed round at 32 billion valuation, if I'm not wrong. Those seem crazy high numbers for no product, just a landing page, and the reputation of the people coming from OpenAI. How do you feel about this imbalance between what they currently have and what they're being evaluated at?
I mean, I don't think it's that insane, to be honest, because if you think about it, whoever wins the AI race, that company is going to be worth over $1 trillion. You know, like OpenAI is devouring Google search traffic at the moment. Something that Google search has lost something like 50% of volume in the past 12 months. It's a crazy statistic. You know, Google is a $2 trillion company and that is losing eyeballs fast. So whoever wins this space, it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar market cap company in 10 years' time. So the fact that, you know, you're able to take one of the 10 bets available to you for what would become a $2 trillion or $3 trillion company, I think that math works out. Obviously it's a high risk bet, but I think ultimately, if you're the general partner of a large VC fund and you don't yet have an AI play or a horse in the race, then you need to get exposure. Otherwise, you're going to be having some very awkward conversations with your limited partners, right? So I think that's what this is. The chase is on, and this is VCs trying to get exposure to the space at any price.
True. I mean, if I was a VC and I wasn't investing in AI, where would I be putting my money currently? I mean, of course, there's multiple other industries, non-AI industries that are worth billions. But as you said, the first $1 trillion company, the next $1 trillion company will be probably an AI or data-centric company, basically building the next vertical or the next breakthrough, like we've seen with
the next
ChatGPT
version of the
ago.
internet, quite frankly. I mean, just speaking to people in my everyday personal life, like people don't use websites anymore. Unless you're very far down the funnel on something, and you require a specific solution to go and buy something, then you'll go to the website. But like the whole funnel exploration where you're researching something and you're trying to understand the concept, and then eventually you might buy something, that whole kind of research process from a consumer perspective, familiarizing yourself with goods and products and services, all of that happens on ChatGPT now. And now people just use the website to actually buy the thing. So 90% of web pages are now pretty much redundant.
More like functional than for discovery.
Yeah.
And to reinforce this point, I was speaking with a marketing person a few days ago. She's doing marketing and sales, and we're talking about SEO and how I should optimize. I basically asked her, how should I optimize my content for SEO? And she was like, of course we should optimize for SEO, but we should also optimize for, and here she used a very specific term that I cannot remember right now, but it was optimization for language model discovery, if you want. Yeah. And I think this is interesting that the industry is shifting from, let's build nice websites so we're discovered by people, to let's build LLM-centric websites so that they're easily scraped and easily understood by the new version of the search engine.
That said, there is no economic incentive for OpenAI to list your website. They can scrape your content and they can surface your content, but they don't have to reference the fact that content came from your website. They're not obligated to do so. So even in the case where you're trying to optimize your website for LLMs, that doesn't necessarily mean that just because your content is consumed by an LLM and then used in a prompt, that they're ultimately going to end up, the user is ultimately going to end up on your website.
Do you see this as a future business model, like a revenue stream for large language model companies, where if we list your website, we're going to take 10% of whatever purchase people make through our link, like an affiliate program, if you want?
Well, there's a good phrase, and it says, if the product is free, it's because you are the product. And Google has been free for all of us to use. Why? Because they monetize us in the back end through their clients, through selling ad space. OpenAI doesn't have the same incentive. OpenAI doesn't sell ad space. They sell licenses. And so there is no economic incentive for OpenAI to do that. And their priority is to the users, right? Their priority is to the people putting prompts into OpenAI. They're the ones paying the bills. So they're going to do what is in the interests of the users, not necessarily the businesses. And so it's a totally different economic model. So I don't think the old rules of search engine optimization can simply be transferred to large language models and think that the same incentives are in play, because they're not.
I agree. And you mentioned people, and I want to go back to our subject on OpenAI spin-offs and safe superintelligence. What does this mean for talent? Where is talent directed towards now? Are they going towards OpenAIs of the world, or are they going towards the spin-offs from OpenAIs? And how, if the market gets fragmented by many, many spin-offs, how are they going to compete for talent?
Well, you started off this topic, right, by talking about the $2 billion funding round for
Yep.
these companies. I think, honestly, I don't think it will make that much difference in the long term, because I just see these markets as winner-take-all markets at the moment. It doesn't seem to me clear where the next generation of AI companies are coming from right now, because all of the mind share and all of the money seems to be going to these big AI companies. Like all of the use cases right now seem to be on the B2C side. Can you name me a 500 million ARR plus B2B AI company?
I'm sure there are, but not on top of my head. Nothing that's hyped for sure. Nothing that's mediatized, because that's probably the boring use case.
Exactly. All of the money right now is either in AI infrastructure, selling chips and selling data warehouses, or on the B2C side. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there was some statistics released the other day that compared the take up of users on Google's Gemini, which is the competitor to OpenAI. And despite the fact that Google should have a massive advantage in this space, Google's users for Gemini on a monthly basis are flat. No one is using it. And OpenAI is running away with the game. They have something like 200 million monthly active users. So if Google can't compete with OpenAI, why do we think that somebody that left OpenAI to start up a slightly different model company is going to be able to compete with them?
Partly because of the funding, because they have money to spend on bold bets.
So do Google.
You have a point. So I guess we'll see, and we'll cover this on the podcast. There must be a reason. I can't see a big failure when it comes to this kind of spin-offs. I mean, there's too much money there. There has to be something coming on the other side. Maybe a new way of thinking, maybe the new internet, as you said, or maybe just something that we haven't seen so far because we've been blinded by the biggest model, the biggest company, the 200 million monthly active users of OpenAI and so on. But this leads me to the second topic, where I want to switch from the biggest in the game to highly specific small AI startups. And the reason for this is, yesterday I was at a hackathon mentoring some startups in the AI industry. And I found it super interesting that their use cases were so niche that they're almost hard to discover, and they're solving such a specific problem. And I feel like we're caught up in this race of OpenAI, who's building AGI, who's doing the next agentic AI framework, and so on, that we forget to give credits to the businesses that are targeted, focuses to a specific niche, and solving a problem really well in that niche, even though it's super small. And I have some examples here, and I'll just list them, and then we'll discuss. I'll get your takes on the specificity of these startups. We have AirVet. They're doing telehealth for pets, where the AI matches symptoms with advice. They're valued at 11 million. We have Doctronic. They offer an AI-powered health assistant that helps users before they go to the doctor in person. They just got a 5 million seed. We have Seafood AI that uses AI for crab fishing and processing. So I assume some computer vision there going around.
It's a very niche use case.
All of them are. That was the point. And we have
Remedy. AI particularly though. That's
AI for crab fishing. In an industry that's known for being quite dangerous for people on board of those ships in the Nordic Sea and so on. And last, we have Remedy Scientific, a startup that uses AI and robotics for land contamination cleanup, just raised 11 million in seed. As you pointed out, very specific. What do you think? I bet you've never heard of them.
So are these all companies that you met at the hackathon?
No, those are companies I saw on Crunchbase.
Okay, so you just came
yes.
across these companies.
Yes. The companies I mentored were slightly earlier than these companies. They
Yeah.
haven't raised yet, but to give you some examples, they're doing AI for math and computer science tutoring. They're doing AI for predicting the amount of fertilizer you have to feed your ground so that you save costs and you get good crops. So very, very niche use cases. And I'm keen to hear your take on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I think sometimes we get too wrapped up in like AI as a concept, right? But the fundamentals of business still are still going to apply to all of these companies. Like, what are their unit economics? Are they profitable for a start? Do they have profitable unit economics? So, for instance, in SaaS, the reason why VCs invest in SaaS is because the gross margins are like 50%. That's like insane gross margins. And so, every time you sell a SaaS license, you're effectively printing money, which is what makes them so investable. Another thing about SaaS businesses is that you can scale them globally for a relatively low cost. Now, obviously, that applies to AI as well. But I think a lot of these businesses are not going to be defined by how cool their tech is. A lot of these businesses are going to be defined by how resourceful are they as founders? How efficient is their go-to-market function? What is their distribution like? How quickly can they grow their user base? How sticky can they make their product? So, you can take any one of these niches, and there's probably like 20 companies competing in each of these niches, even though they're super specific. There's probably at least 20 companies in each of these niches. And if there isn't, you kind of need to be concerned, right? Because why not?
Yeah. If you don't have competition, that's a question mark, a big one.
Yeah. So I guess that would be how I would think about it. It's more a case of, can the founders in these companies execute at the speed and with the effectiveness that they need to actually generate positive unit economics? Because at the moment, AI is being, you put AI in your company job title or your company title, and you can raise a seed round. But eventually the music's going to stop. And then the tide will go out and we'll see who's swimming naked.
Nice analogy out there. One thing I liked in your take, you listed some means to a successful business for this kind of startups that are generic to pretty much any business out there. How do you keep users engaged? How do you keep them paying and so on? But you never mention AI, and I think this is valuable because AI is a tool. It's not a label that will make or break your startup. Use this tool if you need it. Don't use it if you don't need it. But the principle of business stay the same. So whether or not we have AI, whether or not you use it, we don't need to abuse of the AI sticker on your pitch deck just to raise money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're getting to the point now where I think there's a bit of customer fatigue almost. Every time you mention AI now, you kind of get like an eye roll, because it's very difficult from a buyer's perspective to distinguish between, okay, is this an AI company, or if they just put AI on the logo? If it's AI, does it actually need to be AI? Is this actually valuable? I don't envy the position of buyers right now.
They're having a good time, like a good show, trying to distinguish between, because even myself, I've been doing AI for almost 10 years now, and AI is so overused now that even though I live and breathe AI and I create value with it, I tend to do the eye roll whenever I hear AI. It's just too much that I start to get sick whenever I hear AI, just because I know there's just a significant chance that it's used just for the label and not for the actual value. But a question I want to get to here on this topic is, we've seen some niche use cases of AI. And we're talking with many people in SMBs who are thinking about AI in their leadership, but don't know how to apply it. How should these people start? How should they leverage AI, and how should they decide if AI is the right tool for them?
Well, I'm definitely happy to give my perspective, but I would like to hear your perspective as an engineer. I mean, how would you approach this if you were in a business today and you were looking to purchase a solution for your company? Let's say it was an AI solution. How would you actually evaluate if the AI was legit, if it was necessary? What's the process that you'd go through to understand more?
I think the question is, whenever you're applying AI, the question you should ask yourself as an engineer, as a product owner, as a business owner is, can I do this deterministically without AI? And if the answer is a clear yes, then...
What do you mean by deterministically?
We have the concept of if branches in programming. If you can take a quantity and decide with 100% accuracy whether or not that quantity is true or false or above or below a certain value without using artificially intelligent prediction mechanisms, then you don't need to throw AI at the problem just because you can.
Yeah.
If you can just use your database and do a database search, you don't need AI. If you can, basically, I would summarize this with, if you can solve your problem with non-AI tools, you don't have to use AI just because it's flashy. And you will not get a competitive advantage just by using AI in a scenario where AI is not needed. This is not where AI brings added value.
The problem is, though, we've got an entire generation of companies being built saying that, okay, we know you can solve the problem how you solve it today by hiring 20 marketers, let's say, and having a whole team of marketers. But if you buy X AI solution, you can have 3 marketers and an end-to-end AI solution for your marketing department. And so it's not, I think the difficulty that customers have is that they're being told that, sure, you're solving this problem today without AI, but if you solved it with AI, you could solve it 10x better. I think that's part of the challenge.
If the 10x can be proved, and if you can run a pilot that can prove the 10x tendency of your business when using AI, then it's probably for you. And if it makes sense from an economic point of view, so you're not just spending a ton of money on AI, that even though you're doing 10x in revenue, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So just to conclude this chapter, I would say, don't use AI just for the label. Use AI if it makes sense. Going forward to the next topic, I stumbled across a post yesterday about Microsoft having launched an AI ad 3 months ago without anyone noticing it was AI generated. And just to bridge it to the previous topic, this is how I think AI should be built. You should feel an increase in customer experience. You should feel a better experience browsing online. If it's AI powered, good, but you shouldn't know it. It shouldn't have the flag, hey, this has been AI generated. So to get back to my point on Microsoft, 3 months ago, they created a 1-minute ad that was with a high percentage generated by AI, and no one noticed until they explicitly made it public that, hey, this ad was built by AI. And the question I have here is, how many AI things you think you have around you without knowing that they are AI generated? How much do you think it's around you?
Probably an increasing amount. I mean, there was a really interesting analogy that was brought home to me the other day around post-World War II. And bear with me on this, but essentially what happened in World War II was obviously Europe was basically blown to pieces, as was Japan. And what happened is you had 16 million Americans coming home. And as a result, America became the world's factory because the whole world didn't have any manufacturing capability, and so a ton of Americans came home to manufacturing jobs, and it built the middle class as they had in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, right? And at that time, it didn't pay any better to work in the service economy or the white collar economy than it did to have a manufacturing job. And so as a result, all of the jobs were in manufacturing, and everyone worked in manufacturing. But those jobs were basically eliminated by robots, to the same extent that farming was eliminated by the farming revolution. You know, there are now 100x less people today working in farming than were working in farming 100 years ago, but we still make just as much, if not more, food. Then the same happened in manufacturing. And I think for a long time we've assumed that the service sector economy is the best paying, that's where all the best paying jobs are. You know, go and get a job working in marketing for Microsoft. It's where the best paying jobs are, it's where the most number of jobs are. And the same thing is just happening again. You know, the service sector economy is just not going to have as many people working in it in 10 years' time. And that's just the inevitable conclusion of when I read things like this.
So you're saying that AI is happening around us. We're seeing more AI generated content with fewer people working to build that content or that whatever it is that's AI generated.
Exactly. And not to get too deep into it, but like the point they made is, and this is a really interesting point, but the point they made is that even though there was a lot of disruption created for the farmers when they had to move into manufacturing, most of the farmers were able and available to take manufacturing jobs. However, when you were working in the manufacturing plants in the 70s and the manufacturing jobs went to China and were replaced by robots and all the rest of it, you could not get a job at Google if you built cars for Chevrolet or Chrysler. And so there wasn't the same labor transfer between the manufacturing industry in the US and then the service industry. And I think the same is going to happen again. You know, it's not clear to me what a marketing manager does at Microsoft when they can no longer run ads. It's not clear to me what is going to happen next. And yes, these AI jobs it's going to mean less jobs, but it's not clear to me that the same number of jobs are going to be created as a result of all the jobs that we're going to lose.
To answer your question on what would that manager do, I think we discussed this in our second or third episode, and our take was that he will not be managing teams of people, but he will become a manager of teams of AI agents that are doing the job. And the better you can convey the message to a computer, the bigger the chance you'll keep your job.
So would you be willing to answer the question at this stage? If we agree that the manager is now going to be managing a team of AI agents, what are his team going to be doing that are no longer working?
Manage the sub-teams of AI agents. That's why I think the take was that even though you're a content creator or a manager of content creators, you will all become managers of systems that can do the job better. Maybe not better, but faster for sure. And you'll just augment and decide and make the critical decision of this is good enough or this needs more work.
But that assumes that, I mean, I love the idea, but that assumes that we need either 10x better quality content or 10x quantity of
This assumes
content.
a growth in demand for sure. And this might not hold true. We might see a 2x, 5x, but let's say the productivity increases 10x, which is probably false. But people coin this 10x term.
Here's an interesting thing. Sorry to interrupt, but the only way that this can actually result in more money for the average person is if AI agents become consumers too.
And then the demand will be infinite, basically.
Yeah.
It will be topped by the compute power that's out there.
As soon as I can sell stuff to an AI agent and that demand wouldn't have previously existed, that's when I start to get less worried about AI.
But we're getting philosophical here, because if the AI agent is the customer and the AI agent is the supplier, why would they need us in the middle?
Yeah. Well, exactly. And that actually brings us on to the next topic perfectly. So AI is changing the world of work, but maybe not in ways that we anticipated. And I think this was brought to life quite nicely by a post by Amjad Masad, who said recently, and Amjad Masad, just for context, is the CEO and founder of Replit, which is a generative AI platform for developing websites and applications. He said in a tweet or X post, I don't know what you call it these days, an MBA professor told me that his students use ChatGPT to write assignments, and he uses it to assess them. So GPT here is the world's most inefficient transmission protocol. I suppose what he's saying is, you have a bunch of students writing their essays with ChatGPT, and then the professor's marking it with ChatGPT. It's kind of a ridiculous scenario at the moment where we assume that the best way for humans to work is to use AI, but increasingly they're not using AI to work. AI is just doing the work without their input, and essentially it's a conversation between two different versions of ChatGPT.
It's basically the bridge from, in this particular scenario, between what the student thinks and what the teacher thinks of what the student thinks. But there's no way to connect the brains of the two people so that they both use a language model to lay down the topics, create a nice version, and then the teacher will use this nice version to assess and basically decode it back to the way he thinks.
Sure. But therefore, what's the point?
It's a waste of resources, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this reminds me of a joke that I've heard probably 2 years ago when language models were still quite young. The joke goes this way. So I have some things I want to convey to my manager, and I have 3 bullet points. I use a language model to craft a nice email for my 3 bullet points. My manager receives the email, uses the language model to condense it back to 3 bullet points. And I think the protocol here is just to make things more official, even though the information, if you want, the embedding of that content is the same. We just want to make it look official, when in fact I could have just sent my 3 bullet points. So I think it's one or the other. We either keep doing this and waste resources and time, or we accept the fact that information can be transmitted in multiple ways, and we should just pick the most efficient one instead of coding it into something that looks official and decoding it on the other side.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, we've been half an hour in today's episode. I think we should wrap it up there. What do you think?
Sure. We'll keep the last topic for episode number 11.
Awesome. Don't forget to tune in at the same time next week for another episode of the Generation AI podcast.